It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me meat?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Throw-In. Tonight, it is Monday, the Monday after the Royal Rumble. We are also the Monday after the NFL Conference Championship games. It is January 29th. It's officially tax day, so if you have filed your taxes or you're about to file your taxes, Federal is starting to review them and send them back. And, you know, me and my wife filing taxes for the first time this year as a married couple. Earlier this fall, we were, we were wedded. And so we actually decided to file jointly. And, and things worked out pretty well. I always get worried about that. For the longest time, I've learned how to file taxes individually, and I like TurboTax. That's kind of just been the online source that I've been using since day one, and it's worked out for me tremendously. So, what I love so well about TurboTax is that they allow, it's a step-by-step process each and every year. And, you really, and they remember your old stuff, and they really just triple check, quadruple check things and make it easier to talk about, to file your taxes. There's no endorsement involved, no sponsorship involved when it comes down to TurboTax. But if you guys are, there's someone's left there listening, I would love to give them a shout out on this program on a daily basis. Anyways, so, we're at the end of January, and I was thinking about this today. I was like, boy, January just does not seem to come to an end, doesn't it? The beginning of a new month or a new year, 31 days to kick off this new year. You got to wait for tax, season to finish, to begin. This is kind of where most people actually reap the effects of Christmas still. Usually a lot of people, and including, my family, we kind of pay for it in the month of January when it comes down to bills and, trying to get us by, because we put a lot extra into the holidays, at the end of the year, that you're kind of now just sitting here and waiting for taxes to come in so that you could catch yourself back up. So yeah, this has been a long month, but a lot of build up for this month for the official road to WrestleMania. For those who don't know, we're officially 68 days from WrestleMania 40, which is going to be held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm excited. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited. And the first thing, the last couple of weeks, let me actually just put it to you this way. Since the beginning of the year, I know I have, and I know that there has been some other people, and some other people, most people have been able to hold their water. They've been able to sit here and just let things pass and have minimum conversation about what's going on in the WWE, especially when it comes down to speculations. Well, I mean, we talk about it a lot on this show, and it's not oblivious to what you're seeing on television, to what you're hearing about on the news. You know, one of the biggest story in professional wrestling in the month of January has been Dwayne The Rock Johnson and his return, or so to speak, his appearance back on January 1st. Yep, just may want to make sure I got that right on the calendar. January 1st of 2024. Since then, and since that itsy bitsy notion that we have from Dwayne Johnson saying that he sit at the head of the table, I think that's captivated enough to catapult a conversation piece each and every day moving forward until WrestleMania about, are we going to see Roman and Dwayne Johnson in a singles competition this year? Now, I mean, if you ask a general fan, this is a dream match. This match makes perfect sense. It made perfect sense 3 years ago, and it makes sense now, right? I'd love to see it. I think the next person who I ask will also love to see a match like this. But until we actually see the dotted lines being signed, until I'm going to have to even go out on a limb to say, until we see, I'm going to say, until we hear the music and that bell rings in April, and we see Dwayne Johnson and we see Roman Reigns standing across from each other, ready to do battle, then I think those speculations have to kind of cut down a little bit. You know, it was last week's news that headline that Dwayne The Rock Johnson not only bought his name, so now he trademarks The Rock. And I think that was just buying time. But he made a business decision to remain with or to join TKO Group's board of directors. Now, obviously, a lot of this headline news was stumped by the allegations and scandal that was filed last week. And we'll actually talk about that here in just a moment. But, you know, maybe it was a tease. Maybe the head of the table, if you think about it now, Dwayne Johnson is already sitting at the head of the table as the guy, you know, as one of the board of directors. One of my things here that we start raveling when it came down to these allegations, because, you know, I want to point something out to you guys. I made predictions last week. I predicted that Bayley's would win the Women's Royal Rumble. I predicted that Finn Balor would win the Men's Royal Rumble. I predicted that Randy Orton would win the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. And I apologize for guys out there because I have been mispronouncing that title for quite some time. And I also predicted Logan Paul was going to win the United States Championship. And I, you know, at the end of the day, I was about 50-50. But I'm not making predictions because I want to be correct. I'm making predictions because I have a creative mind. If I was sitting behind the reins, one option for me is to see Finn Balor Seth Rollins, WrestleMania, Damian Priest cash in. I'm also in notion to see, or in favor to see, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton undisputed WWE Universal Championship match at Mania, besides a Roman and Cody part 2. So my head is spilling. And listen, if you're a fan and your creativity brain, if your brain's not spitting out just crazy possible matches that, listen, now since we don't have Vince McMahon tied along to anything WWE related, because I've seen Hunter do things that fans have wanted to see, and I got to admit that fans are happy that, anything could possibly happen. And we'll talk a little bit about that in our program, because as we learn an updated circumstance with CM Punk, the Royal Rumble winner, Cody Rhodes, there may be other directions that WWE may be approaching here because of a situation we'll talk about later on tonight. So, I'm just throwing it out there. If you're not, I'm not looking to get every prediction correct, but if, I'm looking to really sit down and have, all right, here's my prediction. Here's what I think could happen. If I was maybe running WWE, this is what I would do, and then go from there, and I just hope that once in every 20 years that somebody would just hypothetically listen to me and say, hey, Justin, you got a good point. Maybe let's see that happen. But, I don't know the details, ins and outs of the WWE. Talking about the allegations, because this is a big subject. We know about this, and it really created headline news. I was a bit frustrated last week because, the last time I remember Vince McMahon making headline news was around WrestleMania time. Matter of fact, after WrestleMania, when he announced that he was selling the company and he sold it, and we should have sat here and talked about WrestleMania matches and how good they were and how great they were. And did it live up to the expectations? Were we satisfied? But instead, blockbuster news about Vince McMahon making headlines. And I was a bit disappointed. And so as we approach a great, the road to WrestleMania as it officially begins, we see Vince McMahon once again, and not in a great fashion. It wasn't positive news, but we see it happen yet again. And so it's upsetting. The other thing that when we learn about this, we're starting to see stories of other people tying along. And so apparently, according to numerous of reports, Brock Lesnar was pulled from the Royal Rumble. Allegedly now, Brock Lesnar is pulled from Elimination Chamber and pulled from WrestleMania because his name was mentioned in part of these allegations this time around that was done just a couple years ago. And so I have another pet peeve because there was 2 articles that I read today, and there was a podcast that I was listening to that came from a valid wrestling source. You talk about some of your validations when it comes down to sources, and hey, if so and so is not reporting this, then I'm not listening to it. If it's I'm not gonna believe the hype until it comes out of a certain person, because they are liable, they are resourceful, and they give honest information. Well, there was report, and I watched the press conference back on Saturday night after the Rumble. I know Cody was asked about the allegations, and I know that for sure, Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, was also approached by these allegations. And Triple H, trying to be a business person, attempted to say, listen, I do not want to talk about these allegations. I have nothing to comment or to say about these allegations. Therefore, I only want to focus in on the positives, and that's the Royal Rumble. That's because you're taking away from guys like Logan Paul, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Bayley, and you're taking away their spotlight that they earned on Saturday. Well, Paul Levesque ended up saying he was asked if he read the allegations, and Triple H said no. Now, do I really care if he read the allegation, this lawsuit or not? No. See, from my understanding, it's about 70 pages long. And for someone who's ready to put together the Royal Rumble and kick off the road to WrestleMania, why would he have time to read these allegations or this lawsuit? And he said no. And now I see these reports, a few reporters who, want to bash on Triple H and say it's his responsibility to know these allegations. No, it's not. It's TKO's responsibility. Let the man just take care of the positive entertainment we are seeing inside the ring. Okay, because his name has nothing to do with what's going on. The only tie he has, I'd say two at all. It's one, he's been a part of the company for 20 plus years. And for two, Triple H has been, he's the son-in-law to Vince McMahon. That's the only ties right now. And that's it. But he wants to keep things separate. The Royal Rumble has nothing to do with these allegations, and therefore, let's talk about the Royal Rumble at the night of the Royal Rumble. So, man, I gotta just tell you that it was upsetting. But we got a 2-hour program for you guys tonight. Can't wait to get started. That's coming up here. Yeah, we got to take our first break. So if you guys are watching us on our YouTube, Facebook, Steve mentioned that Twix. You silly kids. Twix are for kids. Hey, whatever it is, whatever that slogan is. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Check out our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. We can check out all the audio, blogs, articles, social media account feeds, all that good stuff. Head on over to www.tncsportstalkshow.com. All right, let's get this show on the road. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, let's get back into the swing of things as the TNC Sports Talk Show is given to you thanks to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the TNC Sports Talk Show, and the Throne, where you can create videos, podcasts, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. Check out their free version today at StreamYard.com. All right, what do we got listed here on this show for you tonight? We'll talk some NFL as the Super Bowl contenders are set. The San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs will be heading on over to Las Vegas to face each other in less than 2 weeks, February 11th. It's kind of kind of I don't know. Either you, what I look at this situation is it's a Super Bowl rematch from a few years back. So we'll talk about that this afternoon. We'll talk a couple of headline stories already coming out of Monday Night Raw in regards to WrestleMania options and a valid promo, a really good promo cut given by not by CM Punk, but by Seth Rollins to Cody Rhodes in trying to decide what championship should Cody Rhodes select this year. So we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. I want to give just a shout out to Cincinnati Reds outfielder Jake Fraley, as him and his wife Angelica's daughter cancer is now in remission. From Natty Sports back in December 10, 2023. Cincinnati Reds outfielder DH and beloved fan favorite Jake Fraley's wife Angelica's announced on Instagram that their daughter has leukemia. And so that after that unfolded, apparently the Natty Sports came out earlier today saying that their daughter is now in remission. So congratulations. That's a great way to kick off this baseball season. In just a few weeks, the Reds are heading out to camp, and you can see Jake Fraley probably coming out to camp with some big smiles as, you know, his daughter does not have cancer anymore, leukemia. We are reluctant to know a little bit about leukemia with everything that's happened with Roman Reigns over the past decade. So we are very cautious about that, and we wish him and his family the very best moving forward still. So, but that's some good news out of the Reds County. We're just now waiting for spring training to start. A matter of fact, 2 weeks from the end of the Super Bowl. So, we're getting ready for some Reds baseball here. But the Royal Rumble was the number one conversation of the weekend. I was very pleased. They kept it to 4 matches minimum. And, Triple H said, how can you highlight everybody? Everyone is up on the card that wants to be highlighted. And I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, we're heading into WrestleMania, and we have a lot of top stars that are looking to showcase their talent this year. Now, obviously, with injuries, you see a couple being left off the card, but it's still a pretty packed card. And it's 2 nights, but how many matches are you going to have a night? And one thing that I struggle out here on the East Coast is that it starts at 8. I mean, we get ready for it by 4 or 5. We're all just hovering around the living room, gossiping about what could happen, what could potentially happen, what do we want to see, and then listen, we don't want to, then 4 hours come by and midnight, I'm dead tired. I'm ready to go to bed. Another thing that we're going to do tonight here is kind of take a step back and a look into 2023 as I give you my top 10 WWE matches last year. So excited about that. But no, it was a good night. I think when you talk about Raw, SmackDown, the first shows of the month, first pay per view of the year, or premium lives, these set the standard and the bar to how the rest of the year is expected to play out. Um, and that is not only just the road to WrestleMania, and I think you have two matches already accumulated that take up about a good half, if not 2.5 hours of your show alone. So you know it's time consuming, and then I know everyone wants their fair share, time in the spotlight. So Logan Paul beats Kevin Owens to retain the United States Championship. Roman Reigns defeats three other men, excuse me, in a fatal four-way match to retain the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Now, that was the one that I had the prediction that Randy Orton could walk away. And I was kind of getting into the conversation with Steve over there at Armchair Booking over the weekend, and I just wonder if we were supposed to see Dwayne Johnson and then something, because of the allegations, maybe he backed off a bit. I know that the WWE doesn't want to make it sound like that they're using, office personnels or celebrities to fill in entertainment when we have such a growing talent. And I get that. But if we're going to see this match, I mean, I know that there's not a whole lot you need to build for a Roman and Rock. If you say, hey, just give me a date and time and how to watch it, we'll be there. But I really did think that Dwayne could have would have been a perfect time. But WWE, I guess, is sticking with Roman. I kind of argue and question, does he even need to drop it at Mania? I mean, if he's so close, he's fingertips away from surpassing Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan, and you think about what could happen in the next year, why does he need to drop it? I mean, he already has the contract of a lifetime. I would consider letting him keep it this year. I mean, if that means that he doesn't defend it this year and you have Dwayne Johnson and The Rock without the title, because like I mentioned, if these two guys are to fight, it's a family feud. There's no title involved. There doesn't need to be a title involved. Either Dwayne wins or Roman wins. That's simple. But they kicked off the Royal Rumble with Bayley, with the women's Royal Rumble match. Now, congratulations to Bayley for winning the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble match. And I think some people predicted that. I know some predicted Becky, maybe even Nia Jax was a candidate. One thing that I think we don't take into consideration are returns, are from injuries or from different companies. We saw Naomi make her return. Now, I don't quite know if that is a permanent thing or if that was just a one night only. I would like to see Naomi. From my understanding, Naomi had a better relationship between Sasha Banks and Naomi when they held the women's tag team titles. I thought, from my understanding, Sasha kind of did a lot of the pulling the strings, and but it's good to see her back. They had what is it? Jordan Grace, the Impact Knockout Women's Champion, and I think every year we overhyped this a little bit. Last year we saw Mickie James, and she was the Knockout Women's Championship. champion. This year we saw, and then we sat there last year. We're like, oh great, the Forbidden Door's being knocked down, and we're gonna see other wrestlers, coming from promoters. And then we saw, or the case was, but the argument was, oh, we're gonna give Mickey James her, just her time back, and I think that's what it was. I think it was an understanding that hey, we apologize for what we did, and we would like you to come back and make a Royal Rumble appearance. I mean, and so great, I like that. Jordan Gracie, Impact. Maybe this is a tradition. Maybe forget about the Forbidden Door, just a tradition. I mean, Impact. I was talking to Steve. I mean, didn't Impact just jump on some sort of relationship now where they're tied along with the WWE a little bit? I don't recall exactly the details of it, but I knew that started at the beginning of the year. It was, I think, it was like television wise or whatever. So, but regardless, it is nice to see other other promotions allowing you to borrow talent to give them the spotlight. You're promoting the Impact Knockout Women's Champion. You're promoting Impact Wrestling. And you're just promoting wrestling in general. I mean, she's a top star. She's done a lot already at her young age. So I like this very well. But then we got a chance to see Liv Morgan, and Bayley went the distance. Ultimately, I think a lot of the record breakings and settings came from the women's side. I was looking at statistics over the Royal Rumble, and Bayley was, lasted like over an hour and 2 minutes. You had, both, and for the men's side, you only had Cody, and then I don't know who the other one is, but they only eliminated 4. So it wasn't really such a big conversation there. And I know that's something that as a fan, and if you know anything about the Royal Rumble history, you kind of keep an eye out. All right, who's going to go the longest? And what I liked about it, I was watching Peacock, and at least on the women's Royal Rumble, they had the tickers. They showed every couple, competitors who's been in there the longest. So I liked it. So congratulations to Bayley, though. She was my prediction. It felt right. I think it helps push this story. I'm convinced that Bayley's gonna go challenge Io Sky for that title at SmackDown. And if so, then I think it helps. I was wondering last week. I was taking a look at the championships, and I was like, all right, well, if you set them up on a match, how good of a match could you set them up on? And who could you set them up with? Well, you get to Rhea, and you're like, well, yeah, Rhea can, take away with anybody and have an incredible match. I mean, she just had a great match last year with Charlotte Flair. And you look into the other person on the other side of SmackDown, and that's Io Sky. And not to decredit her, she's had some good matches, but Bayley, we've seen what they're doing to Bayley, where they're kind of outcasting her a bit. And Bayley has been, in my opinion, and I think it's been said out there publicly, that Bayley has been one of those who has been overlooked and not given that main event role at WrestleMania this year. You've seen it in Sasha, Charlotte. You've seen it in Becky, Ronda, Rhea, Bianca, Asuka. Bayley's grinded just as hard as all of them combined, and she's never kind of been given that break, up and downs with injuries. So to get the opportunity, and like I said, if this has to come back around to Io Sky, it's hard to imagine to see. I mean, could she challenge Rhea Ripley? Yeah. It's just a bit hard to imagine that. So Io Sky fits that storyline, and you know what WWE is about. It's about that storyline. Io Sky just fits that, bill with Bayley. And now, if this is true, and if my prediction is true, Io Sky and Bayley for that women's championship on SmackDown at WrestleMania, then this Royal Rumble win kind of helps elevate that story. You don't have to announce it right away. You can say, hey, I'm bringing this back to Damage Control. We could all have success. You just saw the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, win the undisputed, I guess, the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. And so with that, the only person that doesn't have anything holding with them is Dakota Kai. So, maybe this could be redemption for Bayley. It would help both of these opponents out. So I'd like to see where this goes. I think it makes perfect sense. All right, we got to take a break, but we got to talk about the biggest history that was being made, and that was on the men's Royal Rumble side of things. So don't go nowhere, because the throw-in continues here on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, so just a reminder, we're 68 days and counting away from WrestleMania 40. And I'm going to be honest about this year's Royal Rumble. And I was more impressed in the outcome of the women's Royal Rumble match. I predicted Bayley. It could honestly be anybody. And I think maybe because for the women's Royal Rumble match and what we saw was, I think we saw this on both women's and men's, we didn't see celebrities. We didn't see part timers. We didn't see the people that were called to dust off their boots to go put on a 2 to 5 minute show out there. We saw a roster that was impactful, that benefited everybody and kept wrestling progressing forward afterwards. Go back and look at the Rumble. Don't just look at the feuds we saw beforehand. Look at all the feuds that we saw moving forward. I mean, Jade Cargill returned. She had a stare down with Bianca Belair. Now, whether you have Jade and I think we were talking about this too. You look at WrestleMania. I was listening to a podcast actually a YouTube video that Maven has put out about kind of how WrestleMania is put together. And one of the stories they said is that they work their way backwards months and months in advance. So they kind of picture who do they have at the main event of WrestleMania, who is defending what title, what's the stipulation, this and that. And then they backtrack to, okay, well, how do you get to Elimination Chamber? How do you go to the Royal Rumble and previously? So you're starting to see these feuds build up, and that's already been determined. It's everything is just now, hey, don't get hurt, right? Or don't mess things up. We saw Sammy returned at number 30 to get through and pay back Drew McIntyre after putting him on the shelf. Liv Morgan, same thing, returned. Like I said, Jade Cargill made her debut. Naomi returned. We saw moments where we saw for the men's Royal Rumble match, Jimmy and Jay kicked things off, and now there's speculations that they could be a WrestleMania match. Who do you have winning? I couldn't tell you who really benefits the most. So, but this is just, I think, what calls for great talent and great shows down the road and great conversations. So just as much as of a congratulations that we can give out to Bayley, let's give our congratulations out to Cody Rhodes. He's won it back-to-back times. He joins the Elite Four. From my understanding, that's Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, and the guy we do not mention anymore right now, I guess, Vince McMahon. I think. I don't know. From the last thing that I saw on social media, this was how it was put. I don't know if I saved that picture. I did not save the picture. Let me see if I have it on my Facebook account. Sometimes I repost on my Facebook account. So, what do we got going on here? Come on. Doesn't look like I have. Anyways, I was seeing it, and so he joins Four of the People. And I think, let's just take a moment and acknowledge that. Because for whatever reason, WWE believes in you. They believe in you, they believe in your character, they believe in your fan base, and they believe in your story on why it was needed to win not once, or not twice, or not even 3 times, but back-to-back years. And I think this is a fun story to tell. I mean, it makes sense. It works. I don't have a problem with Cody Rhodes winning. I think it's an accomplishment. He did it in a city where, his family has kind of grew up in a rich wrestling area. And there's been a lot of great matches, a lot of great things going on in St. Petersburg. So, it all makes just that much more sense. So, but, if you'd asked me, I do not consider, I would play it out a bit differently. And this is where my mindset kind of get stuck in that creativity period. Because this is why I threw a Finn Balor out there, for example. When I look at the Royal Rumble and I look at the person who is expected to win it, yes, I'm looking at, is he ready to main event WrestleMania? Nonetheless, being at WrestleMania alone, yes, Cody Rhodes fits all of the qualifications that he fits a lot more than CM Punk, in my opinion. And sure, he fits it more than Finn Balor. But when I look at this and I start saying, all right, here's what has to happen, I tell myself that, why does Cody Rhodes need to win again? You're telling this story of how he lost. He came back from injury. He entered the Royal Rumble. He won the Royal Rumble. He went on to main event night 2 of WrestleMania in this dream proclaim that he needs to win this title. And then, but he loses. Then he vows that he will earn himself a title opportunity. He went into a 4-month dispute with Brock Lesnar that capped it. That they weren't bad matches; they were really good matches, but that finished off at the SummerSlam. And then through there, I mean, okay, so he had a feud with the Judgment Day with Dominic Mysterio, Shinsuke Nakamura, Drew McIntyre. I mean, bits and pieces that kind of people who kind of wanted a piece of him because they saw where he's going. And they're like, well, I want a piece of that. So either the Judgment Day wanted to stop him because they were at the top at the moment, or Shinsuke got jealous because he failed with Seth Rollins and wanted to face, to stop Cody. Drew wants the same thing. I mean, it wasn't really nothing impressive, to be honest. But in other words, he's going back into the Rumble, and he wants to finish the story. I mentioned this before. There's other ways for this to fall into place. And Cody did not have to win the Rumble. He could have sat there and got eliminated, because remember when I was predicting the picture perfect plan of Cody was eliminated by CM Punk in the Rumble, and he got so close, but then I got taken away from him. Well, who says that he couldn't go into the elimination chamber saying, I got one more try, I need this, I gotta have it. He spills his heart and soul into the match, wins the elimination chamber match. Therefore, he's the number 1 contender for whatever title he decides or is up at the time. Like we mentioned last week, Cody does not need to face Roman Reigns, to even defeat Roman Reigns. And apparently, according to Raw tonight, does not need the undisputed WWE Universal Championship in order to complete this story of winning. It's not just about Dusty Rhodes anymore. It's about winning it for him, finishing the story for him, for his family, for his legacy, for his kids. And we'll dive much deeper. And I think it really also sparked a little bit of an eye opener, if you're asking me. And now Cody has to choose whether he wants to challenge Roman Reigns in that undisputed WWE Universal Championship, or does he want to challenge Seth freaking Rollins in that World Heavyweight Championship, who, by the way, has had a great feud in the past with him. They've torn down and became the workhorse. Seth Rollins has defended that title successfully for the last 8 months of the year, ever since capturing it back at Night of Champions against AJ Styles. So when you now start looking at, and Seth Rollins popped that question out today on Raw. He was like, well, what type of champion do you want to be? Do you want to be the fighting champion? Or do you want to be what Seth Rollins called the Hollywood champion? That is just, it's a champion that goes around town and poses and makes television appearances and whatnot. Or you can sit here at our house shows, at our television shows, put up that title anytime, any place, anywhere, just like what Triple H said it meant to the WWE. That was what Triple H said when he, announced this inauguration of this title. The other thing is, too, is that the World Heavyweight Championship, and I'll leave it off of this note, was not created by the WWE, right? It's been passed around from other promotions, and it stays true to its name. It's the World Heavyweight Championship, which is, then you start talking about the other promotions that good old Dusty Rhodes has been a part of. So, I mean, I know the title doesn't look like what it used to look like. I have a replica of the original title, and I like the replica. But who doesn't say, this is the prestigious title that Ric Flair held and carried and defended when you have those legit conversations. So, I mean, who doesn't say that, we can get the best of both worlds still? We can see Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, night one for the World Heavyweight Championship. We can see Roman and The Rock. And hell, if you have to put the title up, which I don't think so, and I know it's kind of strange to even mentioning it, but you don't have to put the title up at Mania for Roman and Dwayne, because they don't need the title. And therefore, you could give Roman a reason to keep that title on him for another year. And Cody Rhodes still gets a chance to take his dream. I'm going to finish things off on this point. If Cody chooses to go with Seth Rollins at Mania, Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, as long as they have that undisputed WWE Universal Championship, will not let down, saying that, great, hey, you can finish the story, but you've never been able to beat me. Or Roman Reigns in this case. So Punk has to make a wise decision. A big wise decision coming up here. Could happen. But hey, hour number one is coming up to a completion. We got to get on back, talk about some NFL football playoff race. Super Bowl 58 coming up in 2 weeks. Much more. We'll give you the top 10 of my favorite matches in the WWE last year. And we'll get into some conversation about good old CM Punk. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right. Hour number 2 here, given to you thanks to Spreaker. It's not only a audio listening application, you could also download and publish your own podcast, view analytics, and monetize your work. All through Spreaker, one of the largest, biggest distributions that they offer a large major platforms like Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, so much more. Check out their free options at Spreaker.com. All right, our number 2 kicking underway, and man, it's been fun talking about the Royal Rumble. A lot of excitement. I've been, just it's been the number one conversation on Twitter or Twix, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm just posting just to stay up with everything. And it's, I mean, look, you know, if Cody Rhodes decides to go somewhere else, like I said, I have to argue that, listen, Paul and Roman will not let that down. So there is that true argument of, hey, who is going to, be Cody Rhodes' challenger? I mean, if you look at it in hindsight, I'd like to honestly see Cody, Seth Rollins. It makes sense. But then here's my other, just off the top of my head, Damian Priest still has that Money in the Bank briefcase. And I feel, who do you see Damian Priest? I mean, Damian Priest and Finn Balor successfully cashed in successfully retained their tag team titles against DIY. There's been some poison in the water lately in Judgment Day, which questions how much longer is that faction's going to be a part of, or are they just going to split in their own ways? Because you got Damian and Rhea is kind of off on a different level than everybody else. And I think it's also time for Dominic to kind of take another step in his career, if you ask me. But so if you see right now, my question is Damian ready for a main title like the World Heavyweight Championship, or even like the WWE, the Undisputed WWE Universal Championship? For me, I say he'd go after the World Heavyweight Championship, take advantage of an injured Seth Rollins, but at the same time, you could go after Roman Reigns and be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns when he's at his lowest. But then, what does that do good for Cody Rhodes? Think about this. If you're Damian Priest, you could dethrone Roman Reigns, who's been in Conqueror for the last several years, or you can stop Cody Rhodes' story by, all right, he wins it, I cash in, I beat him for it. And therefore, he told his story, he has that 2 seconds of glamour, and it gets taken away from him. Right? But then if you have Cody versus Roman part 2, I guess you could still see that. Just imagine. Just like I said, this is part of the possibilities that run endless coming WrestleMania time. All right, local Cincinnati sports news. I'm going to kind of give you a partial. I don't have an update with the Cyclones just yet. But in Bearcats football, Scott Satterfield introduced defensive coordinator Tyson Veet, if I pronounce that name correctly. Tyson was the Ohio State associate head coach and linebacker coach for the past 8 years. He's won national linebacker coach of the year by Football Scoop in 2017, nominee for the Braley's Award. So we get a chance to see a new defensive coordinator. And what I can tell you off of this, just is the same way that you're watching in football. This is a new conference. I don't expect them to be anywhere good in this new conference its first year. Now, did they learn? I sure hope that Cincinnati learned a lot this past year. Learned, okay, this is definitely where we can improve on. And now, since we've already played these Big East games, or Big 12 games, that we can now just be that much better when we head into next season. Hiring Tyson, who has had some experience, And it looks like he's been doing this for a couple of years. I don't think Iowa State's had any significant success, but it's a start. So what do you got to do? You're going into a conference that you know that you have to be flawless, and I just don't see Cincinnati being flawless. So who knows? Bearcats men's basketball, they went ahead and beat UCF by 11 points back on Saturday. That gives them a 3-4 conference record, a 14-6 regular record with 12-2 at home. They would Dan Skilling Jr. put up 21 points on his birthday. The Bearcats are 10-2 when Dan is playing. It's his fifth double digit game on the season. John Newman III also put up 19 points in that 11-point victory. The Bearcats shot 63% in the second half in order to help out. The UCF moves to 16-5 here. So as we look ahead, they play Wednesday. January 23rd, on the road against West Virginia. West Virginia is 7-13. They're 2-5 in conference play. They're on a 2-game losing streak, losing against Oklahoma State 70-66 on Saturday. They are 7-5 though at home. So it's going to be another matchup. I told you these are maybe a couple games that the Bearcats kind of could slide on in and pick up some victories. I think it'd be important to kind of get your win up on the road. Bearcats are 2-3 on the road at this moment. So, and they're going to probably be playing the next 2 games on the road. So we're getting ready for some really tough times, but you got to pick up victories when you need to pick them up. And like I said, I go back around to being what type of division we are in, and to the adjustment. Xavier Musketeers, they ended up losing. They got outscored 99-56 against UConn on Sunday. They moved to 10-10. Conference is 4-5 as they head as Davon McKnight put up 18 points to their loss, unfortunately. So that is your local Cincinnati sports over the weekend to get you kicked off. The rest of the week, we'll provide more of an update as the week goes on. But it's time. And I mean it's time, you guys, talk about some NFL as the playoffs creep closer to the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens 17-10. While the Detroit Lions came up short 31-34. So we'll see a Super Bowl rematch here. But let's talk about each game individually. I think the Kansas City and Baltimore game was a bit more difficult to talk about. Especially if you're a Cincinnati fan, because I heard some mixed emotions. I'm like, people didn't. I think for most Cincinnati residents, you wanted Baltimore to win. This was the only time of the year that you wanted Baltimore to win, because if you can't stand, other than not being able to stand the Ravens, you can't stand Kansas City Chiefs. The one thing that I took away from both games on Sunday was that there were several opportunities to put the game away that both Baltimore and Detroit failed to capitalize on. I did not watch the entire game of Kansas City and Baltimore. And it was a close game, I know that. But Baltimore made Kansas City look good. And the one thing I have yet to see out of Kansas City is a perfect team from the past, so to speak. Right? Patrick Mahomes just doing what Patrick Mahomes does. Travis Kelce doing what Travis Kelce does. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kansas City is a very dangerous team. And I feel like they've been getting by games through the mistake of their opponents. It's coming down to who makes the fewer mistakes. And right now, Kansas City is making the fewer mistakes, and that's why they're winning. Whatever the mistake was back on Wild Card Weekend, maybe you had a lot of considerations, playing into the factor of the game, the weather, the fact that Miami couldn't beat a winning team this season. Then you looked on to Buffalo, that came down to mistake after mistake after penalty, and it came down to a kick that should have tied the game, but if not, it moved too far right and gave Kansas City the chance to advance. And then you have Baltimore game, which was the celebration. It was penalties. It was the fumble in the end zone. And if whatever went wrong for Baltimore, you made Kansas City look good. And that's an issue. I really didn't care. I chose Baltimore on this one. I did feel like when you look at the comparison, when you look at the field comparison on paper, Kansas City outbeats them, right? Hands down. But if you look at what the production is on the field, Baltimore was more of that complete package. That's why I chose Baltimore to win. But you know what? They looked sloppy. They played sloppy, and they just didn't get the job done. Now, probably one of my favorite games out of the weekend was Detroit, San Francisco, the second game, nighttime game. And this is another prime example of, all right, how many errors can you make? You're up, by 14, 17 at the half? And I ask myself, this should be an easy win. San Francisco, pack up, go home. But instead, you got, San Francisco creeping back in the third quarter, and then they come out and they are going neck and neck with you in the fourth quarter. And your only job, if you're Detroit, for the next 30 minutes after you're up by 17 points, is to hold them by 17 points. And you could easily win this game. There's even a point in the second half they were going neck and neck, field goal for field goal, and it's like, that's all you got to do. There were decisions made by Dan Campbell that I'm not even angry at, because we've seen teams take risks. We've seen the probabilities and the statistics that say going forward on fourth down is more likely better. But when you have an opportunity, instead of giving the ball over on 4th and 2 because you failed to go for it, at least fail and attempt to kick a field goal, in my opinion. I think that's just fresh to stay. I mean, listen, by all means, San Francisco wasn't a perfect game, wasn't a perfect team, but you kind of given them that confidence that they may need in order to go back and win the Super Bowl. Now, I'm going to give you a little biased opinion. I'm once again rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. It's not because I dislike the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, they've worked hard on the road all year long, besides the wild card weekend, and they deserve a Super Bowl win. They've obviously won these games. But San Francisco has been a team of mine through my father over these years. For those who have listened to previous episodes, you know my history with San Francisco. And I just like Brock Purdy. I like Christian McCaffrey. I feel like this is as even as it's going to get offensively, defensively. And, that question I think still circles the lot is who the amount of mistakes that could be made is going to determine who wins the game. But Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas will take place here in just less than 2 weeks. We'll talk about it a little bit more as the time comes. We got the Pro Bowl coming your way. But coming up next, I will give you my top 10 matches of 2023 in the WWE. So don't go nowhere because the throwing continues here next on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
You are now in the presence of a king.
All right. You know, the WWE in 2023 really grew, and I was pleased to see. And I think the WWE needed from besides the selling of WWE to TKO, besides the allegations that were made that led to this ultimate decision, we needed a bounce back year. Since the pandemic, WWE was honestly, if it kept on going, on the verge of probably even losing altogether. And so, to see Hunter do what he did, really paying attention to giving the fans what they wanted, I felt was necessary, and um, I applaud it. I mean, I got nothing. I mean, he had probably one of the biggest successful years, and you're seeing it roll over into 2024, which is exciting also. And you could, right now the sky's the limit for WWE, and you listen to Hunter and how he expresses the future of the industry, the future of the business moving forward, and you just can't help but to feel positivity with him as well. And so 2023 left us a lot of great matches when you look back on it. I know this is late. We're at the end of January when we're pushing this out, but I really wanted to make sure I gave you a good topic. I really wanted to give you my best work, what I really truly thought it was some best matches of 2023. And there's a couple of matches that did not make the cut as well. So without further ado, let's just get right down into it. Here are my top 2023, top 10 matches of 2023. Kicking things off, number 10, I am going for the father versus son match. There is just a part of this match that you still look at Dominic Mysterio as a kid, right? I mean, there's just so much that went into this match. Rey Mysterio, Hall of Fame, the feud that we were looking towards seeing. I mean, I thought it was never going to happen, but it did happen. And we talk about this feud. I don't think it gets brought up often. And for a father to son, you have the age difference. You protect one another. You had, you had Bad Bunny, I believe, right? You had Bad Bunny in the middle of it also. So, and this because it led up to Damian and Bad Bunny later at WrestleMania, at WWE Backlash. So, coming in at number 10 is Rey versus Dominic, father versus son, WrestleMania match, dream match in my books. Really stands out. I mean, they got family into it. Could things have been different? Of course, but can't you say that among every other match? So, number 10, Rey Mysterio versus Dominic. Coming in at number 9 for me is the Civil War between the Bloodline. You had the Usos on one side taking on Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa on the other side. This was exciting to watch. I enjoyed watching this match. I enjoyed actually the first half of the year. I enjoyed the feud altogether. I felt post WrestleMania, yes, you saw the cracks. Yes, you needed this. How everything happened after this match, I think, went back down to maybe was a bit more stale because I have not really seen the hype. But this was a match that you really got excited, got behind on seeing, because this also led to Roman being pinned or losing for the first time. So, number 9, Civil War match, the Usos taking on Solo Sikoa, Roman Reigns. Coming in at number 8 is the Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. And the reason why this is my top 10 in the WWE, not just because of the hype, because they're in Puerto Rico for a pay-per-view, not just because Bad Bunny, is, we're, representing Puerto Rico, but they're, whenever we knew that Bad Bunny really was able to have a match. There's not many celebrities, no matter across whatever genre you come across, that can perform in the wrestling ring as good as Bad Bunny is. Now, I'm glad that he's not doing it full time. But it was a promotion for, I think, what began the future of these PLEs, in my opinion. Yeah, you had the one up in Canada earlier on last year, but I think this one really now just motivated you going forward. So, great match for these two, great pay-per-view overall. And that's why it's in number 8. Number 7 was Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown's Women's Championship at WrestleMania 39. Rhea Ripley goes on to win the Royal Rumble match. And this starts off the year for her in the domination and to the growth that she's really built. One thing that I can tell you, one thing I actually absolutely dislike is how NXT opponents or NXT superstars come up to the main roster and they really just have to reconstruct their entire character. We saw Pete Dunne to Butch, back to Pete Dunne. DIY was separated. They came back. We've seen the same to a handful of others. And it takes them some time. Sometimes a lot of them don't even bounce back at the same level. But we see Rhea Ripley getting this main event. I think one of the arguments was, could she have faced Bianca Belair? Yes, it would have resparked a NXT feud, but there was a lot of history in NXT between these two years past that I think a lot of people forgot, and that's why it made sense. So it came in at number 7. Number 6 for me. I think this was monumental because you had this was Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on Roman and Solo Sikoa. This was the Night of Champions. This was in Saudi Arabia. This match particularly had a few things going on. One, the bloodline was arguing against each other because Jimmy and Jay couldn't accomplish their task and keep those titles. You also had Sammy and Kevin, or more likely Sammy, trying to continue to dismantle the bloodline alone. This was also the first time that we saw Sami Zayn compete in Saudi Arabia ever, which I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. And it was one of those matches that succeeded. So with everything that was present at the time and the circumstances, that's why it's in my top 10. Number 5. This one, man. You got Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. And Cody Rhodes loses at WrestleMania and argues that he is going to claw his way back up the rankings to earn himself another title shot to beat Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar immediately offered to be his tag team opponent the night after WrestleMania. And in the main event, before the main event even started, Brock turned on Cody, led them into a feud where it ultimately finished in SummerSlam. And I thought the third match was a better match than the first two. But this began that journey for Cody that he needed. And this is why it's number 5 in my top 10. Because if Cody did not go through those next 4 months in that, battling and in that position, defeating Brock, even just going after him, I don't think he'd earn another opportunity. Number 4 has to be the WrestleMania sweet spot between the Usos defending and losing their undisputed tag team titles to Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. A feud that I think really popped throughout the first 3 months of the year for a lot of people, not just Sami Zayn, but for Kevin Owens, who was part of this, who really got involved in this feud late in 2022. The Usos really got more of a spotlight. We haven't seen tag teams really main eventing a WrestleMania. It also brought heat to the bloodline. And a lot of people really was behind this match and some will arguably say that because Cody lost at Mania last year, that this was the match of WrestleMania that that actually saw. You saw kind of that tipping point where you finally get over that hump of when you think that they couldn't be beat. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn finally came in, and you had the crowd with them, and everything just worked out perfectly. Number 3, and I may definitely get some heat on this one, but it works in number 3 in a lot of reasons, and I think you'll have to look at the first 2 in order to understand. And I think a lot of reasons why Cody and Roman at Mania comes in at number 3 was because the incompletion of the story that we've talked about for years on end, or for the last 3 months. He goes out and he wins the Royal Rumble, and I think a lot of it has to do with effect. Here's the effect. You've seen others in recent years go out to win the Rumble. I've seen Edge, Brock Lesnar. They've gone on to Mania to challenge Roman Reigns, and they lose. Cody Rhodes becomes another statistic, and I think a lot of people were behind him because they're we talk about the family business. You talk about, and it seems like everyone now has that. Hey, I've had that relationship with your father. I could use that against you. Doesn't work for me. So when it was a really good match, it was a great match, but when you consider everything in between, I find it a bit further down on my list, and that's why it's at number 3. I know a lot of people are going to say it should be number 1, but it's not. Number 2 is the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 39. We knew that Sheamus and Drew and Gunther couldn't go and fight and compete. You talk about a brawling fight that only these three men can do inside the ring. No one else could ever do it. It lived up to its potential. It lived up to the hype. I think it was an overlooked match. It was an underlooked match at WrestleMania. No one really gave it credit where credit's due, and it excelled. I think the only part that I don't like about the outcome of this match, I think this jumps Gunther up in the rankings of where he should be at. I think a win like this at Mania with the distance that he went at the Rumble last year elevates him. He wouldn't be in championship conversations without these matches. It's upsetting because they haven't really used Drew all that well. And I know his contract has been up and down, but he hasn't been used accordingly. Sheamus, I don't know if he's been dealing with injury or not, but I mean, we haven't seen him in quite some time. And I get it. There's a handful of these guys, Sheamus is getting older, Drew's getting older, Gunther's in his prime. But come on, man. This was probably one of the, this is, in a physical fight, this was one of the greatest fights in WWE all of last year. But the reason why it doesn't come in at number one is because the story between Sammy and Roman that I think was even a little bit more bigger than Cody and Roman last year, had to be at Elimination Chamber in Canada in front of Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn's friends and family. This was a betrayal from the bloodline that attempted to force him to do things he didn't want to do with his friends or against his friends. In this sense, we go back to the Royal Rumble where Kevin Owens faces Roman Reigns for the title. He loses, but then Roman wants Sammy to hit Cody or hit Kevin with the chair after he's already beat. Sammy hits Roman on the other side, challenges. It's the biggest pop. It's the biggest hype that you get out of anything. It's the biggest crowd reaction, fan base. You knew, we were even talking about it this time last year, that if you did not have Sammy win or have this match successful, if it didn't get pulled off the way it should have been, you would have had the entire city in Canada or the entire country, protesting this in the arena. Like, that's how bad it was, but it made it so much greater. I thought this, you could see the raw emotion from Roman Reigns, the desperate of, hey, I needed this. And this really sparked, this ended up sparking Sammy for this tag match that ultimately got them the undisputed tag team titles. Where are they at now? That's a different conversation. But this match really not just lived up to the fight. It was the main event of the year, I believe. Like I said, bigger of between Cody and Roman, just because it was a buildup. All of 2022, Sammy was trying to be a part and fit into the bloodline until he realized what Roman was trying to do. He tried to warn the Usos, who did not listen. And because of all of this leads into a singles match, a turn. It leads into a singles match. It leads into tag team titles. It leads into, the impact that Sami Zayn has on the fall of the bloodline in this past year, causing Jey Uso to head on over to Raw to be having a singles career. All of that is thanks to Sami Zayn and arguably thanks to this match in general. So that is my top 10. I would love to hear what your top 10s are here. We got to take the final break of the program. When we come back, I will just bring up some of what happened on Raw, and an update on CM Punk. So don't go nowhere. The bottom half of the hour will continue. You guys are listening to The Throwin on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty. Discover your world-class artists, composers, and bands. Find the perfect soundtrack and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Check out epidemicsound.com for all your latest information. And thank you to Epidemic Sound for allowing us to use the music on our show. Man, still working on what we're going to do Wednesday or Friday here, but let's top off the night here with some news. I'm just trying to think of what. I know Sammy and Drew main evented Raw tonight. And I know that Damian and Finn retained those tag team titles. But CM Punk opened up the program tonight addressing his injury, and it basically is out there and said that he will miss WrestleMania after he's torn his tricep. And I don't know if I shall feel sorry for him or if this is a blessing in disguise. You guys know how I feel about CM Punk in general. But, Cody made it very clear at Survivor Series press conference that if he's here and he's going to make us money and he's going to not be in the headline news in a negative way, then bring it all forward. And the one thing that I'd argue, through Cody Rhodes' return, although I'm not a fan favorite of it, listen, if this guy, I don't think the WWE is stupid enough to allow Cody, CM Punk to return and to bring all of his shenanigans back into this company that's trying to obviously thrive forward. So I'm giving CM Punk the benefit of the doubt. Do I think he deserved to win a Royal Rumble? Not quite yet. Do I think he should be in a title picture? Not quite yet. Should I think this is the year to main event WrestleMania? No. But now we see him not only not, main eventing WrestleMania, he's not going to be a part of WrestleMania. And I do feel like it was important that he entered WrestleMania this year. He's kind of almost taking the same path as Cody, isn't he? I think it just goes to show you that one of two things. One, don't come back into wrestling until you know you're in-ring ready. Yes, I guess he's had some house show matches, but realistically, how many matches has he had before he's entered the Rumble? Because it was a simple, drop and he tore his tricep. You know what? Could have happened to anybody. The second thing is that he is an injury prone. I'm sorry. This is like the third time that CM Punk has tried to, get somewhere in professional wrestling. Third time in a row that he's gotten hurt trying to go somewhere. I mean, he's trying to go to WrestleMania. He got hurt. He won the AEW championship. He got hurt. I think there's more of an issue with his injuries. Yeah, it's a different injury, but I still think that there's an issue. But with all the negatives aside, 4 to 6 months is a long time. Now, like I said, they have some best doctors in the WWE. I'm for sure of that. He's going to go in this week, get what he has to take care of done, begin his, remission, and we'll see him back. He'll have a SummerSlam, and I just wish him a speedy recovery. Because as of right now, he's making money. He's bringing an audience. I'm okay with that. Cody Rhodes has to make a decision on who he is going to face at WrestleMania. And I'd like to just give you the tip of the iceberg. Cody Rhodes last night or Saturday night at at the Royal Rumble after he won, he immediately pointed at Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman as they sat up in a press box. By the way, Seth Rollins was also sitting up in a press box, but Cody Rhodes chose to point at Roman Reigns. Like, this is the story I have to finish. Tonight, as Cody Rhodes was addressing the WWE Universe, Seth Rollins trots his way down. By the way, he's recovering from a torn MCL. No surgery yet. He's expected to head in line into WrestleMania. And depending if he gets cleared or not, and how the WWE is going to take it, is that Seth Rollins walking in as a World Heavyweight Champion, he's going to walk out at the World Heavyweight Champion. Well, Seth makes a pretty convincing, compelling argument on why Cody should look at him. For one, they've both been a workhorse in the WWE. They've wrestled night in and night out at live shows, at house shows. They had an incredible feud that has not been finished yet, in all due respect. And Seth Rollins made it an urge to throw in some family. Dusty Rhodes in comparison. All of it positive, I would say. But Seth Rollins mentioned, what type of champion do you want to be? This is the prestigious title. Yeah, it looks different, but this is the prestigious title that was carried across wrestling promotions to wrestling promotions to wrestling promotions. And this is a fighting championship belt. Seth Rollins went on to say that the undisputed WWE Universal Championship was a Hollywood title belt meant for people to pose. And he was not wrong. Roman Reigns' contract has definitely helped build that image. But Seth argues that this title is defended anywhere, everywhere, whether day, rain, or shine, day or night, at every pay-per-view. And if you know the work ethic that Cody Rhodes has, and you know what type of champion he wants to be, why not? They need a fighting championship, especially if Seth knows that he's probably going to have surgery after WrestleMania. And for the first time, Cody has to think about his decision. I like this. I like it a lot. I really do. I do not think that Cody Rhodes has to announce who he's going to face for a couple of weeks, at least for a couple of weeks, because I think whatever I heard for the first time tonight, I heard Elimination Chamber. And Nick Aldis was in the office of Adam Pearce talking about the Elimination Chamber. That could be the next number one contender for who is going to be facing so-and-so. So that means you're probably going to have 3 SmackDowns competitors, 3 Raw, Elimination Chamber coming up here in just 4 weeks from now? And the number one contender will face the person that does not face, that Cody Rhodes does not choose at Mania. But as much as I would also like to see a Rollins Rhodes match, and I'd even agree, because I'd argue that, like I said, to finish the story, it's not about beating Roman Reigns particularly. But as long as Roman Reigns has that championship, if Cody Rhodes decides he's going to face Seth Rollins, I guarantee you they may even use this as an excuse on Friday night, but I guarantee you at some point it's going to be pointed out that Cody Rhodes chose the easy way out. He chose to face a vulnerable, beaten down, torn ligament of a Seth Rollins and he was too scared to face Roman Reigns. He was too scared. You lost the first time. Of course, you knew, Cody, you knew that you were not going to beat Roman Reigns because you couldn't beat him the first time. So you lost. So you're taking the easy way, the cheap way out. I could guarantee you that's what Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman is going to come up with unless Cody Rhodes faces them. But hey, for the first time, I've seen Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns with fear in his eyes. There's also a couple of interesting things that came out of the WWE over the weekend, especially into Monday Night Raw, as Andrade officially signed with Raw. Nick Aldis left the office with Adam Pearce talking to Braun Breaker on. So crazy things are happening. But man, it was a great show. I believe it is. Go back and listen to it. You'll listen to it on our audio apps. If you miss anything, head over to our website at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. Be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button for all of your notifications. And until next time, you guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you guys for listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.